Hi everyone, I'm from Create and Cherish, and today I will paint with you this flower mandala painted rug. So I'm doing this in cooperation with Stacy from Truly Majestic. So don't forget to subscribe to her channel, and you can also find mine under Create and Cherish. So let's start with my rug. Like always, I'm starting with some basic pencil drawings on the rug. So I'm not very keen to paint, let's say, draw everything that I plan to paint, because it's really hard to predict how everything will go with the dotting. So I just do it along as I think it should look fine. I painted the middle of the circles with white dot, and now I'm gonna start with a very bright pink color. The color of your flower can of course be anything you wish, so please feel free to be creative, to choose your favorite colors, to be bold, because the bolder you are, the brighter and the more vibrant the flower can turn out to be in the end. While I'm doing the first dots, I would like to tell you a bit more about how to prepare your rug for the painting process. So I think every artist has their own way, and I'm sure there isn't a wrong way. But what I like to do with my rugs, I like to paint them in black. It's black acrylic paint. You can just use your normal acrylics and paint them all black, maybe just from the one side, maybe from the both sides. I like to paint them from the both sides, because when painting on a black rug, it's really much easier in terms of choosing the colors, and it turns out, I think, much better than just painting a plain non-colored rug. Of course, there are some exceptions. For all of you who don't know, I'm actually coming from Croatia. It's a cute little Mediterranean country in middle, or more precise, South Middle Europe. So I strongly suggest to put it in Google, so you see all the pretty things you can see in Croatia. And I apologize for my bad accent and for my bad English, so there will be some time until I get a hang of it. And this is also the first time I'm doing a voice tutorial, but for sure not the last time. So the process of painting these little dots and lines is really something that requires a lot of patience. Besides the patience, it of course requires also a lot of time. Unfortunately, the time is the thing that we don't have always. So I'm trying to paint as much as I can, but to be honest, it's a bit hard with a little baby in house and all the other obligations that we have. So I started with the bright pink, and now I'm going slightly lighter shades of pink to make it gradient. What you can also do is to create, I have chosen for this time to make, let's say, pinkish flowers, but you can of course make something much more colorful, or I don't know, anything that comes to your mind. I'm mixing my colors, of course, with the white acrylic paint to get a lighter shade. What's important when doing this is that besides that you add the white color and mix it good, it's important that you also add a little bit of water, because the paints we get in stores, especially if you're using different brands and experimenting with different paints, they're usually too thick, and you need to water them down a little bit. I'm doing this always with my paints. With some paints there is bit more water that's necessary, but with some other they are already more liquid, and I add just a little bit of water. So I prefer this, let's say, more liquid paints than the thicker ones. It takes me much less time to prepare them for painting than with the other ones. But since I live in Croatia, and like I said, it's a little country, I don't really have so much, I would say, choice like you maybe have in the States or in UK or France, Germany, or from wherever you're listening to me. I also use most of the time I'm using the dotting tools, or better to say the smallest dotting tool that I have. I work with it most of my time. I would say like 80-90% of the time. You can do this also with these little tiny brushes that are being used for nail decorations. These are really great, and you can like order them online for $2 or $3 tops. So it's also a great thing to work with. I'm gonna add a little bit of white, so I'm not only staying with the pink color, and later of course I will be adding some other colors as well. What you can notice here on this painted rock, and what you can notice also if you're following my updates on Etsy, is that I usually publish several rocks at the same time, and all of these rocks are made with, let's say, similar color sheet schema. So what I like to do to save my time, which I really don't have enough of, is to paint several things at once. This time these two flowers with pinkish colors, but usually I paint like 2 or 3 rocks at the same time with different designs, but with similar colors. The most of the time that you lose when painting in dot art is actually on preparing the colors, because you are using a lot of different shades and a lot of different colors, and you're adding the white, and then you're adding the water, then the white again, then the water again, and you're mixing it and mixing it. It's like an endless mixing process when painting in dot art style. So this is why I like to do several things at once, because it saves me time, and then I use the same color on different stones and I just change the design. So this is maybe a tip for you how you can save your time also when painting your rocks. I would say it's enough of the pink and the white color. I would like to add something else. So I prepared myself, if you can see on the little plate, a little bit of yellow color. I think I will put it in the middle of the rock and somewhere in the design. So when painting, I rarely think much in advance, so I decide like 2 or 3 basic colors which I want to use in the design, but I don't decide where I will use it or how often or how much I will use them. So I'm going with a little bit of yellow this time, and I will add it just to the first flower, and of course in the middle of the center to the both flowers. Purple goes always great together with yellow, so I'll add it also. So I think the trick in dot painting is to know when it's enough of the colors. So I don't think I'm really good at it, because I always think that it's not enough, and I always want to add something more, or new color or new shade or new dot, and it's kind of hard to figure out when you should stop. When you're doing these little lines with your dotting tool, just pay attention that when you push the dot on the rock, you just need to like slide it on the rock. You shouldn't remove it from the rock. So if you remove it, it won't look nice. But if you just slide it to the left or to the right, and if you have enough paint on your dotting tool, the lines should be really nice and it should be easy to make them. To be honest, it wasn't easy at the beginning once I started with such designs, but now it's really easy, and I love to use them in all my designs. Now a little bit of yellow again to connect all the colors on the rock, and I think that I should be done with the flowers on my rock pretty soon. They are already big enough. When I'm finishing the flowers, I like to do these finishing lines in a way that they separate the flowers from the rest of the design, because there will be a lot of dots from the outside. So one way to do it is to create these lines, or maybe to use white color on the end, because the white color usually at least I use the white color usually to separate things from each other. You can see the white color often on my mountains or similar things. So I will be using it here also. I think the small flower has had it enough for now. So these are just the last little bits of paint that I'm adding, so it looks a little bit nicer. When adding gradient colors to the dots, when choosing lighter or darker shades, I often prefer to put a little bit of white on top of it. It just pops out the color. To the first one, I'm gonna add a little bit of orange. It gives it a little bit different look than the other one. Although the design is different, I was using the same colors, so I'm kind of afraid that they won't look too much the same. As you can see, I'm also changing some things on the first flower. The beauty of acrylic paints is that you can cover them over and over and over and over again. Ta-da! The flowers are done. Now let's start with the little tree on which these magical flowers are existing. I am using some darker green, and as you can see, I'm not using a brush, I'm just using the dotting tool. Sometimes they can be really nice in these lines, but the trick is in taking the right amount of color. So you need to have really a lot of color on the dotting tool to be able to paint with it like that. I didn't draw anything before for the tree, and I'm just going like I mean it could look nice. I have no idea how it will turn out in the end. While I'm painting the tree, I'm thinking the whole time which colors I will use for the background. I would like to stick with something I already used, because if I add additional colors to the design, I think it will be a little bit too much. So I decided to start with orange, but at the top of the rock, so it doesn't melt with the orange on the top of the rock. I'm using mostly bigger dotting tools now. It's easier when you have like a bigger background that you need to cover. If you start with the small dotting tools, you will be doing it for next couple of hours. So especially if you're doing several layers like I like to do, I always use, at least for the first dots, the biggest dotting tool that you have. After the orange, the light green, the bright green, I'm now adding a darker green to the painting. I put this darker green only on top of the stone because it's pretty similar shade to the shade of the tree, and I wouldn't like to have it melted with the plant. To brighten things up, I added also the yellow color. Yellow color is also one of my favorite colors It just brightens everything up. And now at this point, it's only up to you to decide how many layers of paint you will put on your rug. Maybe you could just stick with one color, like for example blue, and make 4 or 5 shades of blue, and then several layers of it. It would also look nice, I'm sure. I did it on another rug that you can also find in my Etsy shop, or on my Instagram or Facebook page, or wherever. I always publish all the rugs that I do. They are always published, and the biggest collection of my rugs you can find on my Pinterest page. It's called also Create and Cherish, and this is also the place where you could find most inspirations for your work. So this is it. The flower is done. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope I helped you with at least one tip that you can use in your painting. I would appreciate your comments, so you can tell me what you don't like in the videos, what you like in the videos, what kind of tutorials you would like to see in the future. I will be for sure making some more and publish them weekly. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Subscribe to both Stacy's and Create and Cherish channel, and you can always find me on Etsy, Pinterest, Instagram, and Facebook. So I hope to hear you soon. Bye bye until then.